Hey everybody, Elizabeth Nader back with you on the Nader Narrative and Jersey First TV. One of the really incredible aspects of the American dream is being able to work for yourself, really, being able to build a business, being able to provide for your family in whatever way your time, your skill set allows, and the flexibility that it means to be in this country and easily do this. It's called the gig economy, is what we call it. And it's really just the opportunity for American citizens to start their own business and maybe do something part time. It really, especially affects women and allows women who are mothers, for example, to do something part time. It allows for us to have freelancers that are gifted in different areas that we can hire. So much about what makes our economy work is based on what we call the gig economy. Did you know, though, that is slowly being, well, not so slowly, quickly being targeted, not only in certain states, but now at a federal level? Why does that matter to you? Well, your ability to be flexible, your ability to be what we call a 1099 worker, your ability to exist in the gig economy and provide for your family is really now being challenged. So we want to talk about that on today's show. And I've got two incredible women with me who I'm going to let them introduce themselves in a minute, but they're both coming to us from California, where the gig economy out there and independent contractors have already been challenged by the new laws that have been passed. We've already seen them get really minimized into laws that change the way that they work. And now we're getting it at a federal level. So everybody needs to listen to this because it affects you. So Karen Anderson and Jennifer Oliver O'Connell, welcome to the show. Both of you are very focused on this. Karen, let's start with you. Tell us about your background.
Well, I'm a longtime freelance editor, journalist, writer, and professional photographer in California. And AB5 is what we're talking about today as it relates to the new DOL rule. And AB5 went into effect in California in 2020. It's an anti-independent contracting law that really severely restricts independent contracting across all the professions in the entire state. And it impacted just hundreds of thousands of people, through the years who lost their livelihoods and incomes overnight because of it. And so I formed a group called Freelancers Against AB5. I had about almost 19,000 members at one time, and they all shared, everybody comes in and shares their stories of devastation. And we've identified 600 categories of professions just within my group that have been impacted in some way or another by AB5.
It's unbelievable. And we're going to dig into what it did. And again, everyone, that's the California rule that passed. And now we've got it at the federal level. Jennifer, tell us about what you do. I have a feeling you're going to use the word freelancer in there.
Yeah, I would be the example of a freelancer just because my career paths and my career focus has been multi-hyphenate. I'm a writer, investigative journalist. I am a reinvention coach, or was a reinvention coach, and I am also an experienced yoga instructor who I ran programs. I certified yoga schools around the world. I have taught other yoga teachers, trained in and certified them. And all of that was possible and joyful before AB5 hit California. AB5 had the immediate chilling effect of, first of all, killing the yoga certification business. I was 1099 through an organization. There was whispers and word that they would hire us on for another round of 6 months. And as soon as AB5 was signed into law in 2019, bye-bye, they never said anything more to me. That opportunity was gone because I was in California. Others got signed back on. I knew that, but
Right.
Definitely the fact that I was in California had that chilling effect that Karen talks about, their main intention of stopping people from working. Mom and pop yoga studios are the ones that hire on 1099 teachers, and you get all types of perks and incentives for doing that. The teachers like it. The yoga studio owners like it. They are allowed to have their classes full without dealing with employee benefits and all the other 9 yards. And a lot of them shuttered their doors, frankly. It was a double whammy of COVID and AB5 that had them close their doors. So there went that work. thanks to AB 2257, which was the attachment bill, the exemption bill that they put on because writers were filing lawsuits, other people were filing lawsuits, supposedly gave me exemptions. It finally lifted that 35 per year per outlet cap, but it's still having a contract. I actually recently had somebody write to me saying, I dealt with large scale corporations for decades, never had to have a contract with them. It was a handshake. How do you do? As soon as AB5 entered in, totally wiped that out, having to, save themselves from lawsuits, the whole 9 yards. So that's what I was restricted with. So
Yeah.
frankly, 6 months ago, I left the state. I moved to
Wow.
another state. But now we are looking at that independent contractor rule that's coming in to do the same thing as AB5. And it just it's frustrating.
It's frustrating. It's following you. Well, now it's at the federal level. We've had rumblings of it here in New Jersey, but now the Department of Labor is enacting this rule. And let's be clear about this. It disproportionately affects women because, I think we're all probably a similar age. And if I were to give you my resume, if it were just like you guys did, there are a lot of different things that I do. And we have that, especially, I think, in probably midlife, that opportunity to reinvent ourselves, that opportunity to be building things that are outside of traditional employment. And then on the other side of it, we have small business, which is the backbone of this economy, and small business that needs to be able to be really light on their feet and not have massive overhead. And like you said, with the yoga studio is a good example. Opportunities to hire people as they go, as independent contractors when the need arises. This is what allowed small business, Main Street business to build. So we can already know what happened in California. Karen, the exemptions, they had to get like 100 different exemptions carved out. I mean, when this AB5 passed, it had to be just like an earthquake to small business.
Well, it was like a Titanic, and every single profession was swimming for the nearest lifeboat trying to get their own exemption. So it became, it divided the opposition coalition because everybody was just interested in their own exemptions. And so the mythology about the exemptions is that they solve the problem for a lot of freelancers, as you mentioned, 100 supposed exemptions, but most of them come with fine print that make it almost very difficult and in some instances impossible to obtain an exemption. So there's a lot of smoke and mirrors involved with the exemptions. Now with the DOL rule, there are no exemptions at all.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, although you have financial advisors who are actually trying to lobby to get an exemption from the DOL rule.
Of course they are.
They're maneuvering themselves.
Of course
right,
they are.
but they can't. They're not allowed to. Because it's a federal regulation in the Fair Labor Standards Act.
Yeah,
it's a little bit different than being able to. So who would they appoint? Even if they were able to grant exemptions, who would they appoint as an exemption czar? And it would be the same, chaos and confusion that's unfolded in California, with just picking winners and losers and people with the loudest voices and the money with the most to hire the lobbyists or the ones that get favors from the legislators. It's in California, it's been a complete and total mess. And I just like to add, I forgot to mention that both Jennifer and I are both visiting fellows with the Independent Women's Forum.
Yes.
And from the very beginning, the Independent Women's Forum has been very helpful in helping to amplify, the stories of devastation coming out of California, and now helping to educate the public about how the DOL rule is likely to impact more than 64 million independent contractors nationwide.
Well, it'll impact everyone on this call right now, for sure. It's a direct impact. And I want those listening to understand this. If you're an employer and or on the other side of it, a gig worker or 1099, right now under the Trump rule and under most states, it's really comes down to, do you direct the work, right? It was a simple way of looking at how much control does the employer have over that individual in terms of directing their work, and how much are they involved in, profit and loss and things like that. It was more of a simple way. And I know as a business owner, it was the way I always understood it, to look at someone and say, well, are they 1099 or should they be on payroll? Now, let's look at why would this change? This is a money grab. I mean, this comes down to control. This comes down to wanting more taxes coming into the federal government or the state government. I mean, Jennifer, I don't know how else to really put context around this, except it's about tax dollars.
Oh, more than tax dollars, it's about union control.
Ah, there you go.
The labor unions, they're losing money. They have been losing money every year, even before the Janus Supreme Court decision, but they've been losing money every year, and they want their dues back. They want their big CEO paydays. And so they figured the way to do that is to destroy independent contracting. It's also an attack on freedom. Representative Kevin Kiley, who has been in the California Assembly, he was our champion who fought for us, and now in the US Congress, he's doing the same. He said it is such an attack on the freedom to the American freedom, as you said earlier, to do as you choose, to work in a way that suits you, and also to pursue to build businesses. Businesses are built on one person, one idea, and then it expands.
That's right.
Under this new DOL rule, that's going to be impossible. No one's going to be able to, hire other people, partner with other people. Innovation is going to die.
Yes.
There are so many things that are a factor in this that are set to destroy innovation, destroy freedom, destroy small businesses. And as you said, money grabs.
Yeah, small business is definitely on the line. And if anyone's ever started a small business, it's a lot to have payroll to start out. It's expensive to do that. And so you generally grow into it. There's a natural progression. But, Karen, when you look at COVID, even I look at what happened with COVID, and I think it was an impetus even more for people to enter the gig economy and say, I've got to be flexible and I need to make money where I can in other ways. I want to look at my career differently. So ironically, in a lot of ways, Karen, the 1099 universe probably grew through COVID, and now the clampdown is coming. I mean, this is a rude awakening.
Right. They really want to squash the trajectory of the independent workforce because they see too many people choosing independent contracting either as a career or as just simply a side hustle, or side gig to supplement your income. Again, these bad ideas are coming from California, and the acting Secretary of Labor in the Biden administration, Julie Su, came from California. She was the endorser and enforcer of AB 5 as labor commissioner there before she joined the Biden administration. So now she's in charge of this new DOL rule, along with the people from the wage and hour division of the Department of Labor, and how it impacts small businesses is really chilling. The rude awakenings in my group are the stories that come from small businesses who are either audited by the Employment Development Department for misclassification violations under their payroll tax audit system, or investigated by the Division of Labor Standards Enforcement, and the fines and penalties for misclassifying a single independent contractor that you might use here or there in a traditional, contracting relationship that we've all, come to, appreciate and enjoy over the years. The fines and penalties can be astronomical and enough to put you out of business in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that's why you're going to see a chilling effect. Even with the DOL rule, these businesses are going to err on the side of caution, most likely, because it's so the rule itself is so arbitrary and capricious, and it's hard to make heads or tails of it as to how it might affect you.
Sure. And heavy-handed. And, Jennifer, let's give an example. You gave the yoga studios, which is really good. Another example could be, let's say you're a wedding photographer and, you're on your own, you have your own business. And as your business comes in, maybe you get 2 weddings booked on a weekend or even 2 on the same day. So you need help. So you need to bring someone in to help maybe cover one of the other weddings. But this is just a 1099 person that you pay. If potentially you would be barred from doing that. Potentially they would look at you and say, no, you have to put them on payroll. This is crazy.
Yeah, I believe in California, they are still, thanks to AB 5, videographers and photographers still can't do what they do. without quote unquote employees. And yeah, that will be spread nationally. You can't hire someone to carry your camera around as a 1099. You have to hire them for that one day as an employee, which is just ridiculous.
It's unconscionable. I mean, you're, and understand, if you've never done payroll, you're hiring them as an employee, which means you have all the processing. You need to find a way to do payroll, which means you need a payroll company, unless you're going to do it yourself, which most people aren't going to do. No, not a good idea. You're not going to do it yourself. So now all of a sudden you're in this whole trap of, I need to do that. I need to figure it out. So you're adding costs. And of course you're paying corporate payroll taxes on top. I mean, it's almost hard to believe this is happening. Karen, I guess, you know, the message to everyone is, whether or not you're a 1099, or you hope to be one, or you think you have a freedom that maybe you don't have now, or you're a small business, which accounts for a massive part of our economy. Okay, California, bummer, get out of the state. We mourn for you guys, right? But now a federal law, what do? I mean, they passed a rule, right? So it's got to come to Congress now to try to negate this.
Well, I just want to circle back a little bit. It's interesting that you mentioned wedding photographers, because in our group, we have wedding photographers just recently who've come in and said they're being audited by the EDD for bringing on a second shooter to a wedding. And so even though they're supposed to be, they supposedly have an exemption, they actually really don't, because they can't bring that second shooter on. As far as how to fight this DOL rule, Kevin Kiley and Senator Bill Cassidy are introducing a Congressional Review Act to put a pause on this rule, and so that's something that people can do. They can call their representative and try to get more co-sponsors involved, especially on the Senate side. I think there's 40 co-sponsors right now on the congressional side, but you know, we really need to flood our representatives' phone lines and email boxes and let them know that we're very, very worried about how this is going to impact us, despite them saying that, oh, well, this might be innocuous, or it's not really the ABC test. It's not really like AB5. But when you read through all the language, the ABC test is peppered all throughout the rule, and particularly the problematic B prong of the ABC test in California is almost verbatim in one of the 6 factors. And there's a 7th mysterious factor that they can add anything onto. So it's really important that people wake up and understand what's happening, because it can happen in California, where the canary in the coal mine. Here, it can happen nationwide, and it appears to be happening. It'll start, it goes into effect on March 11th of 2024, this new rule.
March 11th, you mean in a couple of weeks?
Yes.
In a couple of weeks. Yes.
Okay.
And also know, Elizabeth, that truckers are being affected by this.
Sure.
The truckers in California fought long and hard to try to get out from under AB5, and unfortunately, you know, ruling after ruling, they were not able to. It kept going back and forth. And now there's an actual trucking company in Louisiana that is suing the Department of Labor and the United States government because of this rule.
Okay.
They saw the damage done to truckers in the trucking industry in California, and they're like, this is not going to happen to us. So you have an entire nation of truckers who live in various states, enjoy their independence, enjoy working for several different companies, hauling back and forth. And this is going to affect the food supply. This is going to affect industries of various stripes. I mean, look at the truckers in New York who are refusing to come into New York because of what they did to the Trump administration, or Trump himself and his business. It's like, imagine a chill on the trucking industry throughout the nation. People are going to be highly upset. If people don't understand how it's going to affect you, that's how it's going to affect you.
I just heard my grocery prices go up when you said that.
That's it.
Right? I mean, we're so dependent on the trucking industry, and thank God for truckers. Thank God for their courage and standing up. So I'm hearing we're going to have some legal challenges here, which, you know, hopefully that's one channel, but we need to get to Congress now, and they need to put this on hold. Certainly if the 24 presidential election changes, hopefully that would, you know, negate this and turn it around. But I mean, it's imminent. And Karen, when I said to you before, I think earlier before we went live, according to the DOL, it's a 6-factor reality test. How many pages is this ruling?
It's 339 pages of interpretive guidance that, when you read it, it's on one hand this, on the other hand that, and it really gives the regulator or a judge enough leeway to rule in favor or find in favor of employee status. And so we also have another lawsuit that's been brought forth by 4 freelance writers, 3 of whom are in New Jersey. And when you look at the rule, especially the permanence factor, in other words, they don't want people to have, ongoing assignments from their clients. They think that freelancing should be just one-off types of arrangements. So what would that do to a weekly columnist or somebody who writes a monthly newsletter? Yeah. I may have a partial exemption from AB5 as somebody who does that in California, but now the DOL rule throws all that into chaos, because you can't, that particular arrangement would probably fail 4 of the 6 factors of the DOL rule. So you're going to have these businesses erring on the side of caution and saying, well, we probably shouldn't be using independent contractors at all. So it's the little guy, not the big industries that they say they're targeting, but it's always the little guy, the moms and pops, the solopreneurs, the people like you and me, who are the ones that are the roadkill.
Yep. That's absolutely it. And as I said before, we are the backbone of this country. So to everyone listening, do you like the way our businesses work in this society? Do you enjoy the freedoms that you have to choose of, who to work with, or to choose where to spend your money, or to choose how to make money? Do you take that for granted? You understand this is completely on the line. I mean, it's shocking to me. And, Jennifer, as we start to close out here, we're going to keep focusing on call your congressperson. But another element of this that I think elections have consequences. We have federal agencies creating rules that completely affect the way you and I live, and affect the way everyone is going to live now, frankly. And they're acting on their own without oversight. This is an issue.
Definitely. Yeah. Elections have consequences, as you said, and looking at who is trying to not only uphold the nominees at this agency, the Jessica Lumens and the Julie Sues, but also what was their support on the PRO Act, which was the legislative way they were trying to get in the same things, the same chilling ABC tests, the same restrictions on independent contractors and independent professionals. So you need to not only lobby your legislature about that, but look at the people who are voting a certain way and then vote differently. That's the only way you're going to change that. There is also hope on the horizon, we think, in the Supreme Court, with Chevron being up for review. And Chevron is, if struck down, it will put a tightening on these agencies. It will prevent them from acting like unelected legislative bodies.
Yeah, no kidding.
So that's also on the horizon. It's
amazing how far we get away from the way we were supposed to work as a country, isn't it? And while we're all living our lives and getting busier and busier, this stuff is happening. And here we are weeks away from this being enacted. So we are hoping for the legislators to wake up and do something. They are waking up, and we need everyone to call their congressperson. We're hoping that the judicial branch does its job and that these lawsuits continue. Karen and Jennifer, you guys are going to be tracking this. You're going to be advocating to get this, shot down. We would love to have you back to talk about it. Keep us in the mix. We will put out the alert here in New Jersey. Very, very concerned about this. I'm going to let you each have a last word just to make sure people know they can't take this too seriously. Karen.
Well, if you want to educate yourself about all the ins and outs of these anti-independent contracting labor policies, you could go to the Independent Women's Forum. There's a lot of information and articles and everything that are coming out of their organization, and they are actually, really helping to sound the alarm. It is something that a lot of people don't understand, and there's a lot of misinformation about AB5. Some people think it's been repealed or that it really doesn't impact Californians anymore, which is just completely not true. And another thing is that this DOL rule is not innocuous in the least. We've already seen evidence of companies eliminating independent contractors. For example, a tutoring company based in California just terminated their independent contractors in New Jersey and Massachusetts because of this new rule. And they cited the regulation in the termination letter that goes into effect on March 11, 2024. So the dominoes are already starting to fall.
Incredible. Incredible, Karen. Jennifer, last word to everyone.
Yes, I concur with Karen. Educate yourself. The Independent Women's Forum is a wonderful place to do that because in plain language, they talk about some of the effects of AB5, the effect of this rule would have. One of the pieces I wrote over there was an analysis of a Mercatus Center study that actually studied AB5 and its effects in California and shows that AB5 not only did not create employment for independent contractors, but it killed employment across the board, W-2 or 1099. These are facts that people need to know and understand and get educated about because it's not just some law far away in DC. It's affecting your caregiver, your massage therapist, your trucker friend,
right?
The business across the street, the coffee shop. It's going to have an effect on all of that.
Everyone, and not just women, everyone. It just happens to affect us more, which is ironic coming from a party that supposedly is pro-woman, but that's a different show. So ladies, thank you so much for fighting for this, for letting people know. Independent Women's Forum, of course, doing an incredible job, and we're going to continue to follow what they're doing. But let us know, keep in touch. We are going to put the alert out. This is very, very serious. And we appreciate that you guys have put so much work and will continue to do so. Many times it's the 20% standing up for the 80%, but that's what we got to do. So thank you for your intelligence and your commitment to this. I appreciate you fighting for me as well. And to my audience, guys, take it seriously. Call your congressperson. Let's track this. And we will talk to you next week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you
so much.